What if the most powerful military in the world launches a war, declares victory within hours, and then discovers it may not actually be able to end it? Just days after the United States began its assault on Iran, President Donald Trump told supporters that America had already won. But behind the confident speeches and bold headlines, a far more complicated and dangerous reality is unfolding. Because wars are not like sporting events. There is no scoreboard, no final whistle, and no agreed-upon moment when the fighting simply ends. And right now, the United States may be facing the oldest trap in modern warfare. President Donald Trump has described the conflict with Iran in strikingly confident terms. At different moments, he has called the campaign a victory, an ongoing mission, and even an excursion that will end only when Iran accepts unconditional surrender. But that mix of triumph and uncertainty highlights the real dilemma Washington now faces. Declaring victory is one thing. Forcing your opponent to behave like it has lost is something very different. And that is where the war is becoming far more complicated than the White House initially suggested. Like many leaders before him, Trump appears to have believed that a swift and surgical military strike could quickly produce lasting political results. History shows how risky that assumption can be. The Soviet Union believed its intervention in Afghanistan would be quick and decisive. The United States believed the same when it invaded Iraq in 2003. Russia expected a rapid victory when it launched its invasion of Ukraine. In each case, powerful militaries discovered that destroying targets is far easier than reshaping political realities on the ground. Now, the same dynamic may be emerging in Iran. According to analysts, the conflict may have begun with a sudden opportunity. Israeli intelligence reportedly provided the United States with information that made a decapitation strike possible, a strike aimed directly at the top of Iran's leadership. That attack appears to have succeeded in killing Iran's longtime supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But the removal of such a central figure did not collapse the Iranian regime. Instead, it created a new and unpredictable power structure. There was no obvious successor waiting in the wings that Washington could accept or influence. Instead, hardliners within Iran quickly filled the vacuum. Power has now shifted towards Khamenei's son, Mujtaba Khamenei, a figure who some analysts believe could be even more uncompromising than his father. And that development alone complicates any claim of victory. The situation is further intensified by the response of Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Corps, known as the IRGC. Many of its commanders have been killed in the strikes, but the organization itself has not collapsed. Instead, it is now driven by a powerful motivation: revenge. Military organizations that lose leaders in war often become more determined, not less. Analysts point out that if American commanders or political leaders were suddenly assassinated in a foreign attack, U.S. forces would likely respond with similar fury. The same dynamic is now playing out in Iran. Within less than 2 weeks, Iran has turned the conflict into something much more difficult for Washington, an endurance test. The United States has the capability to bomb Iranian targets for months if necessary, but doing so comes with growing costs. Military operations consume enormous quantities of precision weapons and munitions. They place American personnel in constant danger, and they create political pressure at home, especially as elections approach. At the same time, Iran does not need to defeat the United States militarily to claim success. It only needs to keep fighting. Iran will continue losing missile launchers, drone bases, military personnel, and infrastructure. But analysts believe enough of those capabilities will likely survive to allow the country to keep launching attacks. That alone prevents the kind of clear surrender Washington might want. This dynamic reflects lessons learned from previous conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. In those wars, technologically superior forces achieved overwhelming early victories, but the local forces fighting on their own territory often had something even more powerful: long-term motivation. For them, the war was not a distant military operation, it was a fight for their homeland. And that kind of commitment can sustain resistance even under intense bombardment. Another early assumption of the campaign may also be proving unrealistic. Some policymakers hoped that sustained airstrikes might encourage widespread unrest inside Iran, eventually leading to an uprising against the government. So far, there is little evidence that such a revolt is happening. While many Iranians oppose the regime, foreign bombing campaigns often produce unexpected unity among people under attack. History shows that populations under aerial bombardment frequently rally around their governments, even unpopular ones. As a result, the idea that precision strikes would trigger a democratic uprising in Iran now appears increasingly unlikely. Meanwhile, the limitations of air power are becoming clearer. Airstrikes can weaken a regime's capabilities and eliminate key leaders, but forcing an entire political system to change its behavior or collapse altogether is far more difficult. Over time, the effectiveness of air campaigns can also decline. As obvious military targets are destroyed, the remaining targets often become embedded in civilian areas. That raises both operational challenges and the risk of civilian casualties. And while the United States continues its strikes, Iran has been developing ways to impose costs of its own. One of the most significant developments has occurred in the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is one of the most important energy routes in the world. Roughly 1/5 of the planet's oil supply passes through it. Iran now appears to have effectively closed the strait, using attacks on shipping and the threat of missiles and drones. The result has been immediate. Oil prices have surged above $100 per barrel. Shipping insurance costs have skyrocketed, and many commercial vessels are now avoiding the area entirely. Even the U.S. Navy faces major challenges operating in the region. Iran does not need a large fleet to disrupt traffic. Relatively inexpensive drones and missiles can threaten even advanced naval forces in confined waters. That creates a difficult military puzzle. Reopening the strait by force could expose American ships to significant risk, but leaving it closed would continue driving up global energy prices and disrupting the global economy. And that economic pressure could quickly become a political problem in the United States. Rising oil prices translate directly into higher gasoline costs and increased prices for goods and services. For American voters, especially in competitive election districts, those economic impacts may matter far more than geopolitical strategy in the Middle East. As the conflict continues, the political risks for the White House are growing. American military casualties have already been reported, and although those losses remain far smaller than those suffered during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, they still carry emotional and political weight. At the same time, tensions inside the United States appear to be rising. Authorities have reported several violent incidents, including a shooting in Virginia being investigated as possible terrorism and a vehicle attack targeting a synagogue in Michigan. Officials have not confirmed direct connections between these incidents and the war, but the broader atmosphere of tension is undeniable. All of this complicates the administration's message that the conflict has made Americans safer. Trump has repeatedly argued that the campaign has crippled Iran's nuclear and missile programs, but important questions remain unanswered. International nuclear monitors believe Iran may still possess roughly 200 kilograms of highly enriched uranium at a facility in Isfahan. If those materials remain intact, Iran could theoretically rebuild parts of its nuclear program in the future. Removing them would likely require a dangerous ground operation involving special forces and potentially large numbers of troops. That mission would carry significant risk, and it could draw the United States even deeper into the conflict. Another uncertainty involves America's closest regional ally. Even if Washington eventually decides to wind down the war, Israel may not share the same timetable. Israel has long viewed Iran as its most serious strategic threat. Its military doctrine often treats regional conflict as an ongoing reality rather than a war with a clear finishing point. There have already been signs that Israeli and American priorities may not be perfectly aligned. For example, Israel has targeted Iranian oil infrastructure, potentially escalating economic consequences.
Trump has suggested that the decision to end the war would be made jointly with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But that statement has also raised concerns about how much influence foreign partners might have over American military strategy. All of these factors create a deeper strategic problem. The United States began the conflict with overwhelming military advantage, but wars are rarely decided by military power alone. They are also shaped by politics, economics, public opinion, and endurance. And that brings the conflict back to its central question. For Iran's leadership, victory does not necessarily mean defeating the United States outright. Instead, it may simply mean surviving the assault, continuing to launch missiles, disrupting global oil markets, and waiting for political pressure inside the United States to grow. If Iran can endure long enough, the strategic balance of the conflict could slowly shift.